Man, you know everything about me. It's kind of
Is it creepy? Is it
it's
creepy?
creeping me out a little bit.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Drinks with Johnny. On this week's episode, I am joined by Russ Rankin of the band Good Riddance, a band that's been around since the early 90s, released their first full EP in the mid-90s, been doing Warped tours, everything in the punk rock scene for a long time. They took a little hiatus, and he joined up with Bill Stevenson of the band Descendents, a huge influence of mine. I love the Descendents. Really excited to have this conversation with them. They're back together now, about to do a tour. I'm going to talk to him a little bit about that and his solo project and so much more. Really excited to get into it with Russ. It looks like he's ready to go, so let's start the show. All right, so Russ, how the hell are you today, man? You back home in Santa Cruz right now?
I am.
Right on. And you were born and raised right there in the Bay Area, Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz, born and raised, yeah.
Awesome, man. So I heard the first thing I want to talk to you a little bit about, something I was super interested in, is that you kind of have this volunteer thing where you're helping kids get into the NHL after going through the what's the league that you're helping out with the hockey?
So I work in the Western Hockey League.
Western Hockey League, that's right.
Yeah,
sorry.
so it's major junior. So it's our players are generally between 17 and 19, and they get scouted by the NHL. And so my job is to find players to play on our team, and my area is California.
That's awesome. I wanted to talk to you about that because one of my very best friends has a son who's 10 years old. He might be 10 now. He's 9 or 10 years old. And he plays hockey, and my band Avenged Sevenfold sponsored his team here in Southern California, and he travels all over for it. So maybe in a few years, you might be checking him out.
So we scout players. I scout players when they're bantam age, so 14 turning 15.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's playing AAA for either the Junior Kings, Junior Ducks, Junior Sharks, any of those AAA teams, I might see him.
I hope so. We'll keep in touch in the next few years, and if that comes to fruition, that would just be really funny to me and serendipitous, I guess.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll be at the rink doing that, and like there'll be like a public skate at the next thing, and like some dad will come over and be like, "Oh my God, you're in Good Riddance," and I got my track jacket on. I'm all dressed for scouting, like not doing punk at all, and like it's super funny when the worlds collide like that.
Yeah, I mean, I got to imagine for some of the other dads that, as you said there, it's got to be kind of crazy, growing up listening to your band Good Riddance and over the years, and then they got to ask the question, "What the hell are you doing here, man?"
Yeah, I feel like I kind of look like it should be obvious what I'm doing. Like I got like the business casual going. I got the notebook out. I'm up on the glass watching, but like, yeah, no, I'll talk to people, and I've taken a few pictures. It's just when I show up to the rink for that, like I'm so not thinking about the band or anything like that. I'm like, so when the worlds collide, it's always sort of funny.
Well, Russ, do you mean to tell me there's more outside your life than just the band and music?
Yeah, a couple things. But,
oh man, that's wild. No, I'm just kidding. So I heard you talking a little bit about this on some other interviews, and how your job right now is generally kind of educating a lot of these parents who don't know about the Western Hockey League.
Yeah.
And this kind of segues from what you were just talking about. Are you ever like in the middle of like explaining it to them, and then it dawns on them that you're Russ from Good Riddance?
No, it usually happens around the same time I introduce myself, or they'll come up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually when it happens.
Never during the recruiting?
No, never during that. Usually they either don't know anything or they already know by then.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And how did you? I heard that you kind of you had a buddy that and you were really into hockey, but you grew, as we said at the top of the show here, you're in Santa Cruz, born and raised. Not a lot of hockey going in there. So
zero hockey.
I mean, and I heard, and I know you grew up surfing and skating like most of us Californians did. So where did you get the bug for hockey when you first put on some skates? I mean, what is this passion for you?
Well, this will totally date me, but I fell in love with the game during the Miracle on Ice, like the 1980 Winter Olympics.
Okay.
I just remember just being taken with like the speed and the color and the violence like of hockey during that time. And then I just loved it, and I would watch it whenever I could. And like you said, being where I lived, there wasn't any going on. So I would watch on TV whenever like ESPN would have a national game or something. And I just became a student of the game. Like I just couldn't get enough, and just learning about it, and kind of like the next layer of learning, like besides just like, oh, I like that team, or I know what a goal is, or I know what offsides is. And like pretty soon I was like the unbearable friend, like, dude, shut up about hockey. Like nobody cares. And that just kept going. And then some years later, I really wanted to work in hockey. I was like, feel like that's my calling. Obviously I started playing as an adult, like rec hockey. So I'm not going to be working in hockey doing that for sure, but maybe something else. And just, it was really fortuitous. Like California players were starting to, in the mid 2000s, California players were starting to make their way up to the Western Hockey League, which traditionally was all Western Canadian kids, maybe an outlier from Minnesota or something like that. Mm-hmm. But suddenly, like kids from Arizona, California are making their way up there. And my friend who had played in the NHL and was part owner of a team in the Western League at that time, I was like, what should I do? I really want to get into scouting. And he talked to his GM. He goes, hey, I got a buddy in California. I can vouch for him. Like he knows what he's talking about. How'd you guys like to have a set of eyes down there? And that's just kind of how it happened. And that was I worked for the Kootenay Ice, which was that team, which has moved and become the Winnipeg Ice now. Okay. I worked for them for 5 years. And then now I work for the Tri-City Americans. But that was my like foot in the door.
Right. And that worked out for them, right? To have someone that's there in California, they don't have to travel as much. Do you, when you're doing your scouting, are you just on the phone, a Zoom call these days, or are you traveling up to the team and showing tape or whatever?
So the way it works is we have scouts in all the Western provinces of Canada. Okay. We have a head scout that travels a lot, and we have a GM that travels a bit. But my job is mostly California. So during the season, my job is to identify the best draft eligible players, which are bantam age that year, to identify the best players, to write reports on them, which I send into our GM and our head scout, and to talk to the families and the players just to see if there's any interest. And then generally some point in the year, if there's a player that I'm like, you guys got to see this guy, like one of our either our GM or head scout will travel to see that player. Most of the tier 1 California teams will travel to Western Canada at least once a year, usually BC. There'll be some tournament where they'll be able to see him at, but if not, they'll fly down here and go to a game with me. But all of our staff, we go to training camp, which is the end of August every year up in Eastern Washington where the team plays. So we assemble there for training camp, where we have our draftees, camp invites, and our returning veteran players. And everybody splits into teams and they scrimmage, and we kind of evaluate there. And it's just a really cool time to see the rest of the staff, because we've got a great staff and everybody's together. But other than that, we're kind of all on our own.
Okay. And how long is that, is when you guys get back together in Eastern Washington, how long?
Training camp, it's like 3-4 days.
3-4 days? Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure how rigorous it was at that level.
It's right before the season starts. So for the players that we draft, so if we draft a bantam player, he can't play in our league at 15. Mm-hmm. So he's basically just going to camp to get a look, to like meet the staff, to see the facility, to see the town, to kind of get an introduction of what it's all about. And then he's going to go home and play midget AAA or whatever. And then when he comes back, when he's 15, turning 16, he's got a chance to stay. Okay. So for the drafted kids, it's basically their first introduction to the speed and the skill level, because they're going to be on these scrimmage teams that are mixed up between like 15-year-olds and 19, 20-year-olds.
So right. So like as young as, like you said, like 15, who are at a high school age really, and some of the 18, 19 or 20-year-olds even that are looking to go pro. Yeah. And Do a lot of them who start at 15, are they waiting till they're about 19 to get drafted, or I know the draft
NHL draft age is 18,
right?
It's 18, yeah. Yep.
Okay. And how many of them have you seen that are going through your guys' team and training that are making it and getting drafted at age 18?
We have guys drafted every year. We had a couple years ago, we had Michael Rasmussen, who was our captain. He's playing for the Detroit Red Wings now. Carey Price has played in our program. It was before my time. Who plays for the Montreal Canadiens? Brandon Carlo, who plays for the Boston Bruins, was on our team. So a lot of these guys are going to go pro. Maybe not the NHL. So when you finish your junior hockey career with us, let's say, for every year you played with us, you've got a year of books and tuition that's kind of like in the bank, ready for you. If pro hockey doesn't work out for you, you can kind of cash in on that scholarship money.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. So the kids aren't, No,
it's a good deal. So when you're done, you have 18 months to get to cash in on that money. Unless you sign an NHL contract, then you don't get it. But if you sign
you probably don't need it if you sign.
Don't need it. Yeah. So, but you could go. Let's say your draft age was 18, you didn't get drafted, or you got drafted but didn't get signed. So your agent's out there like trying to get you a job. Like, hey, East Coast League, American Hockey League, Europe. So when you finish with us, you can go for 18 months or a year. You could go try pro hockey somewhere, and if you dig it, you're off you go. You're a pro hockey player. If you don't like it or it doesn't work out, you come back, you cash in, you take your scholarship money, and you get on with your life. You go get a degree. And what's cool about it is you can take that money and go to any school that you want to go to.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, there's no restrictions there. Then that's great.
You can't play D1 hockey, but you could go to a D1 school. If you go to a Canadian university to get your degree, you can play hockey up there.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That seems like, if that seems like a passion of yours as a kid, and you have the skill and the talent and the will, seems like a pretty good program.
I think it's the best path to be a pro hockey player.
Okay.
Not everybody's going to be an NHL player, but if you really want to make a living playing hockey somewhere, I think that junior hockey is the best way to get you there. Just because of the schedule and the way that just the grind. You're on the ice every day, the travel. It really sets people up for that kind of a lifestyle.
And you say that more so than a D1, as we're talking about, like.
I think D1 is great. I think that with junior, you kind of get everything sooner.
Okay.
You get in front of NHL scouts sooner. You get to find out if you're going to be pro sooner, and then if you're not, you get to get on with your life sooner. Whereas if you're a D1 player, you're probably going to be coming out of school maybe in 20, 21, 22. Most guys that are elite, that are D1 players, aren't going to go all 4 years.
Right.
So you're kind of wasting your time. You're playing like 30 games as opposed to 72. You're not on the ice every day. But I don't think that there's one way that's like good and one way that's bad. I think that my job is to introduce parents and players to this opportunity, to what our league can provide. It's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, what I found is here in California is most of our elite players come through elite programs, and most of those coaches came up through USA Hockey, and the USA Hockey has a definite path. Like, you're going to go to prep school or the National Team Development Program, and you're going to go play college hockey. Like, USA Hockey is not on the same page as Canadian Major Junior. Like, they're kind of in conflict. And so I find myself having to debunk a lot of things that I've heard when I talk to parents that they've heard from coaches or other parents who heard from coaches. So I'm not trying to bash D1 hockey because I think it's great.
Right.
But I'm just trying to present this as an opportunity. Like, not everybody in California is going to get a D1 scholarship. It's just not going to happen.
Well, yeah, that goes for any sport, right? Like,
yeah. Now some do. Players are good enough now. We've got guys going D1, and I think that's great for California hockey. But my job is basically to be like, look, this is what we can do for you, and this is what we can do at the end if pro hockey doesn't work out for you. And so it's evaluating players, identifying the best players, but it's also a lot of like kind of educating people just about what we can offer.
And that's awesome. And to my understanding, you do this all like based on volunteer work, right?
Yeah, we get our expenses paid and we get an honorarium, but yeah, it's just because we love it.
Yeah. So you just have that passion. You
I mean,
said,
I would love to work full time in the NHL for an NHL team. Don't get me wrong, that would be my dream. But I love working in the Western League. I love going to the rink. It's great.
yeah, joining the NHL team might get in the way of your travels, though, right?
I think I could make it work.
Yeah, just balance it all. Just figure.
Well,
figure it out.
it's kind of like it's the same way now. Like I always have to go to Pacific District tournaments, state championships, and those are always around the same time. So I can let my band know, like, block off time. Like
Right.
I got to do this. I got to do this. And the NHL, if you're a scout, if you're an amateur scout, you're working around the U18s, you're working around Hlinka Gretzky, you're working around the World Juniors, maybe the Frozen Four. So there's things that you can sort of plan for.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad for the education right off the bat here because one of my friends I just became friends with the last 6 months or so. He's a coach at one of these minor leagues. I know him from the country club over here. We played golf a few times together. He's a really great dude. And he tries to play it down a little bit what he does. And he used to play pro. I mean, he's since retired and now he's coaching kids. And I think at this level, I'm not positive which league he's working with, but yeah.
Yeah, it's tough too for parents because it was fun. Like youth hockey is fun up until right around Bantam, and then it gets serious. Like that's when hitting comes into the game. That's when the separation really happens between the elite players and the not so elite players.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents are paying like 30, 40 grand for these tier 1 programs, so there's a lot of money tied up in it. And suddenly you've got people like me bugging you. You've got maybe you've got ADs of colleges starting to bug you. You've got people that want to be. You can't have an agent yet at that age, but you can have a family advisor. So you got those people circling around.
Okay.
So it's a lot for parents to absorb, and I get it. And so my job is to just introduce myself, give them my card, say like, hey, anytime you want, if you got questions, I'm here to answer them. Even if you decide to do something else, like, I'm happy to answer any question, and I'll give you the total truth. Like I won't beat around the bush about it.
Well, yeah, you got no horse in the race, really. You're just there to help out in any way you can, right?
Well, I mean, I would love it if they would sign with our program for sure.
Okay.
If it's an elite player, but
Right.
I mostly just want to like make sure that they are clear on the options,
Right.
Because they hear a lot of things that aren't true, and so I want to be able to steer them straight about what our league can offer. And also not to bash any other path.
Right.
Like I'm not here to like talk down on the NCAA. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to say like, this is what we can do. I think it's a pretty good deal. And this is what you guys can expect. And, most players in our league end up playing pro hockey somewhere. And if that's what you really want to do, like this is probably the best path for you.
That's awesome, man. So you did mention that you would, if an NHL team rather would have you, you'd obviously want to work with them. Is there a dream team that you would like to work with?
Well, the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils are my favorite team. Like that would be That would be how Hollywood would write it. I would end up working for the New Jersey Devils.
Do you go full like Seinfeld? What's his name? Putty when he dresses up like
No. It's sort of sad that's most people's only reference for the New Jersey Devils is that guy.
I apologize. I mean, I watch a little bit of hockey.
It's okay.
I watch when the Stanley Cup is going on, which it is right now, and I'm a Kings fan. Actually, I was in an AA program when I was in high school, and my sponsor was a big Kings fan, so we'd watch together for a long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. I really, and then I got a couple buddies who had season tickets. We went out there. The Kings a few years ago would play our song "Hail to the King" when they're starting
that's
the
awesome.
game.
That's got to be a good feeling.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. But so obviously you've been watching, I assume, the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts here? Who's your favorite?
Since the Devils aren't in it, and I have season tickets for the Sharks because they're like 20 minutes away from here.
Right.
Sharks are not in it, so I'm I usually adopt a team from each conference. So I'm adopted the Carolina Hurricanes in the East, and I'm kind of hoping the Kings can that wasn't looking good for a while, but they played great last night, and it would be kind of cool to have the Kings move on. And
yes.
And even though the Oilers are supposed to be this juggernaut, and they have a lot of really good players, but they can't seem to do it in the playoffs. So,
well, it was really crazy just the first game right off the bat. Like I came into it in the third period, and man, that first game was a hell of a game over in Edmonton. Like that was, and I was watching it, and from my understanding, like the Kings were not supposed to win, and they're certainly not supposed to win this series. They got a lot of young guys. I mean, they still got Quick and a couple of the veterans, but a lot of young guys on this team. There's a lot of it looks like it's a pretty bright future for the Kings again.
Yeah, I would say they're ahead of schedule, and their goalie is playing like a younger version of himself, like he did last night. He played out of his mind. So that's great for the Kings. Like they are ahead of schedule for sure. They weren't supposed to make the playoffs this year, so good for them.
Well, I'll be watching the rest of the series too, rooting for the Kings as I have in the past, and I like their colors too. I'm a Raiders fan, so I mean, I just Do you have other sports that you watch, or you just predominantly hockey, or it just takes so much of your time? Or
living around here, like it's hard not to be a Giants fan with baseball,
right?
Yeah, I follow the Giants pretty closely, and
what about Golden State? I mean, you got Golden State.
No, I can't get into basketball.
Okay.
I sort of like ask my buddies who are into it, like how are the Warriors doing, but that's about the extent of it. And then
I can tell you they're doing pretty fucking good right now.
yeah. I mean, I know some of the names of the players. Just you can't really escape it living around here. But I can't get into basketball. I've tried, and I followed USC football for some reason I don't know since I was a kid.
Why wouldn't you follow the Niners or the Raiders when they're in the area?
I was a Raider fan when I was a kid.
Good man.
I was a Raider fan when I was a kid.
Wait, not anymore? Wait, now we got trouble.
I sort of check in on them. Like I don't really care about the NFL that much. If they're the only team I really would watch or care about.
Well, you got to pay attention again this coming year. They on paper we're looking good. So now's the time to pay attention again.
Okay.
Let's get back into a little bit of music though, man. You guys released a Good Riddance record in 2019. That was the last release. And then you guys are about to tour here just in a few days, really. We're recording this on what day is it? The 8th or the 9th? And you're getting ready to leave here in a couple days, right?
Yeah.
And where's that tour starting?
Brooklyn. So we're doing like East Coast. We're playing, it's kind of cool. We're playing some places that we haven't played in a while, like Pittsburgh and Chicago. We're playing Louisville, Kentucky, which I don't know if we've ever played there.
Yeah, I have. I think like once or twice. There's the hotel. It's gonna escape me the name of it, but it's right around the corner from where they have a Louisville Slugger store, and inside it they have like this. If I remember it, I will let Vanessa know so you could go check it out while you're there. In the lobby, they have this great artwork. I mean, it's insane and I don't know why it's in the middle of Louisville, Kentucky, but I had a blast there just because that hotel in that downtown area is it's a little small, but it's pretty cool, man.
Definitely looking forward to it. And then we go to Eastern Canada. We're doing like London, Toronto, and the final show is Pouza Fest in Montreal.
Okay. And while you're out in Canada on the East Coast, you have any days off for any of these teams in the Cup that you might get a chance to check out?
I don't think so. I don't think we have any days off. We try not to.
Is that how you guys tour generally? Like back-to-back shows, not too many days off, or?
Yeah, days off are money holes. So like no, thank you.
You don't need the rest on your voice or anything like that?
I probably do, but who cares? Like,
you just fucking go for it. I love it. That's fantastic. And I know you just you've been doing some solo stuff over the years, and you released a record not too long ago. And then I heard you talking about you were gearing up to do some shows. This was a few months ago. Now I imagine you've done some of these solo shows. How did those go for you? Because I heard you talking about it on another podcast, and you're like, sometimes they're, I could hear them talking because it's just you and an acoustic guitar. Some people might have their backs to you. Other times,
it's a strange thing to do. I went to Europe in March, and that was actually pretty cool. It was with COVID still going on in some places. Like some places were so like restricted and masks, and then places like in Amsterdam, it was like COVID never happened. Like no masks, no restrictions anymore. They're all done. And so it was weird, like day to day, different things. And I was the first live entertainment in some of the venues I played at in
Wow.
like 2 years. So some people are just not sure about coming out. Plus, there's the wars going on not too far away, and but given all of that, I'm super stoked. Like I had a couple shows were about 10 people, and then most of them were like 30 to 50 people, which is better than I expected. And then I just got back from the East Coast. I did 5 shows out there. Those were very small, but still fun. And it was just cool to get out and do it.
And why did you choose Europe to do some of your solo stuff for the first time? I mean, do you have a forgive me if, for not knowing, but Good Riddance have a really good following, and do you have a really good following out in Europe? Is that why you chose there, or you just wanted to get
Good
out
Riddance
there
has always done all right there, but I think that I just wanted to, with this new album out, because I put an album out like 10 years ago, and then I didn't really do. I would, if people hit me up like, hey, you want to play? I'd be like, sure. But I never got a booking agent. I never really tried to make a go of it, you know? And I thought with this album coming out that it would be the right thing to do for the people that put the album out, that I at least go out and try to play some shows and to see if people like it, see if it's any good. So it's sort of my goal really to play more. And so I got a booking agent here in North America. And then the same agency that books Good Riddance booked my European tour. And it was really cool. I just wanted to get over there and do it. You know, I'd never headlined solo over there. And even though it was a weird time to go and everything, I just was like, I just want to do it just to say that I've done it. And it ended up being really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd love to do it again.
I mean, obviously, it's kind of a passion project too, in a lot of respects. You're getting your own solo stuff out, and I listened to the latest record that you put out, and you got like some production. Obviously, there's more instruments in it, but as you said, when you're going out, you're just doing it acoustically, right? Yeah.
So the trick with doing those kinds of records is to flesh them out a little bit, because unless you're Billy Bragg, like nobody wants to buy a record and just hear a dude and a guitar. So try to flesh out the arrangements a little bit with some other instruments, but not overdoing it to the point where when you show up and it's just you and a guitar at a club, that it sounds empty or different.
Right.
So hopefully the guitar is the main driving thing in all of these songs, so that when you show up to a club and you start playing the song, if people are familiar with the record, they're like, oh, I know what this song is. Like, so it doesn't sound completely different. So that's sort of what I always had in mind when I was recording the album. Was like, even as I'm adding these other layers, trying to like not over add.
I'm sorry. Did you write and record all this stuff yourself? Produce it yourself? Did you have any help at all, or are you just going into a studio locally and doing it all yourself?
I did it at the Blasting Room, where it's just where Good Riddance is. Yeah, Bill Stevenson helped me, and the other guys that are engineers there. So I had a lot of really good help. I mean, I wrote all the songs except for the cover song. But they helped me with fleshing out the arrangements. You know, Bill always helps me with my vocal performances and making sure that I'm not screwing up too bad.
Well, I mean, he would know. I mean, Bill Stevenson of the Descendents, and of course all the records that he's produced over the years, and of course Only Crime you guys did together. I listened to that. I don't know why that went under my radar for so long as a punk fan, and in preparation to having you on here, I was like, what is this Only Crime stuff? I started listening to it, and you could hear a lot of Bill's influence on it too. And I know you're a great songwriter yourself. What was it like? What was the collaboration when it came to writing these songs? Because as I said, there's a lot of that dissonant chords in there, a lot of the stuff you would hear from Descendents, and I would assume that's a lot of Bill there. And then, of course, a lot of your vocals and everything is very much you. So where was that collaboration? How much was it 50-50, or what was the split or anything like that? What was it like, I guess?
Well, Only Crime was really meant, like, it sort of germinated as what if we had like Slip It In era Black Flag, but with more melody. That's kind of what we wanted to do, because Bill played in Black Flag for years, and he was a huge fan of Black Flag. Like, they were his favorite band. And then when he got in the band, the songs started getting slower and a little weirder and a little more not the same as like the first stuff.
Right.
And he really he was missing playing like the, Police Story type vibe, or even up through Slip It In. Like, the like kind of more menacing stuff, but also jazz influenced stuff. Like who cares if it's in 7/8? Who cares if this chord isn't a real chord? Like, let's just play it, like that kind of stuff. So we were super influenced by Black Flag, obviously, and by like Coltrane and Ornette Coleman and people like that. And so the music writing was way over my pay grade. Like, I didn't do any of that. I would just be sitting with my notebook, just trying to like hang on by the skin of my teeth as these guys like created this insane sounding stuff. So it was a challenge to write melodies and lyrics for it, which was good for me because it was not in standard time. A lot of it, there was lots of like pauses and lurches and like just really cool stuff. Like, I thought it was great. We went under a lot of people's radar.
Man, but I can't believe it though, because everyone listening at home, real quick, if you're a fan of Russ but you haven't heard of Only Crime, or a fan of Bill Stevenson, just a fan of punk in general, and as he's saying, some of that jazz influenced punk, some of the stop and go great stuff that I love as a musician as well and a punk rock fan, you got to go check out Only Crime. You got 3 records out there you could go listen to right now, and they're fucking fire. So go check those out right now. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, especially the last one we did, Pursuance. I listened to it the other day, and I was just like, wow, this is a great band. Like, now you guys killed it, man. I like I said, I'm ashamed to admit it went under my radar because it's really fucking good. Like, it's got everything. It was like kind of a band of people from other bands, and everybody lived different places. It was hard for us to mobilize and really do a lot. And so I think that sort of hurt us. We couldn't tour the way we wanted to, but we're still, we actually never stopped. Like, we have an active group text, and we always are like screwing around with each other, and we want to get together and write new stuff again. So that'd be awesome. There may be more. Like, it's more a product of everybody's just being so busy, and living in different states and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got back together and did more stuff. That would be great. Do you think you'd actually do some more touring on it too, or maybe just come back to I would love to. I think everything is on the table. Yeah, man, I think it'd be great to see you guys. I'd love to see that act live. Obviously I haven't had the pleasure, but I think that'd be, as you said, all the guys getting together from different states, supergroup, if you will, in the punk rock world. So it was a supergroup that drew about 30 people. So. Some of the best ones are that way. But we had fun though. We had a lot of fun. That's great, man. So let's get into some of the Good Riddance stuff too. You mentioned that Symptoms in 2001 was probably to date still your favorite Good Riddance record. Is that still the case today? I think so, or our most recent one. The most recent one I like a lot, and it's the first one that I wrote every song for, which I'd never done before. Usually I write most of the songs, and then Luke, our guitar player, will write like a chunk of songs that I write the lyrics for. But Luke was super busy. He had a combination of things going on in his personal and professional life. And he was down to do the record, but he just didn't have the time to give to writing songs. So I wrote all the songs for that. And just as a songwriter, like taking that on and feeling that pressure and feeling like I came through it okay and had a pretty decent batch of material, that felt pretty good. But I think Symptoms is more like, in my head, I think about, that was probably like the height of our band's powers, and that was the first time that I really felt comfortable and confident about my songwriting and my singing, was recording that album. It was a big turning point for me, because up until then I kind of just would go in a studio and yell a bunch, and they would tell me I was flat, and like sooner or later they'd have a take, but I really didn't know what I was doing, and it was frustrating a lot of times, because I'm just not a singer. Like, some people roll out of bed and they're just a good singer, you know what I mean? And I was just the guy that didn't know how to play anything when the band started, and like beat myself into a serviceable singer over many, many years with a lot of help from people like Bill. If I'm correct, you were in a marching band playing snare when you met your original drummer for Good Riddance, and in high school, right? And was that the early 90s? Is that right? We knew each other when we were like toddlers. We were neighbors. Oh, shit. Me and our original drummer, yeah. And ended up being in a band together. That's pretty cool, man. Yeah. Yeah, I played snare drum in the marching band, but
but when the band started, I mean, I didn't know how to play guitar or any of that stuff. Like I taught myself how to do all those things. And so singing for me was always like I'm the singer, but like, I don't know what I'm doing. And over the years, I kind of learned what I was doing. And Symptoms was the first time I went in the studio with like some sort of confidence. And like, like you've done the band thing, like singers sometimes, like when you don't want to hear your voice on playback, you take the headphones off. You're like, I don't want to hear that. And that was me up until Symptoms. And then I was just into it. It didn't bother me hearing my voice back. I was trying things. I was like, hey, let's try this. Let's experiment here. Like, it was a totally different attitude on my part. I turned some corner on that record where like I became more confident about my singing and songwriting. And I just always kind of remember that. And then also like that record Fat, I remember pushed so hard. I was doing so many interviews. We toured and we were in the weekly in every town. We moved to the next bigger venue in all the towns we played. It was like a noticeable shift for us, like upward, that I remember just was really kind of a cool year.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, people listening wouldn't know this, right? About your singing, like it would be, if you're just listening to the music and not in the interviews and chats like this, it's like people who aren't musicians or anything like that might not understand that. But I find a lot of people, at least in the punk and hard rock scene, like don't really consider themselves singers. They were just kind of the only one that could kind of hold a tune for a little bit in the garage band days, and then kind of fell into it. And then for you, I mean, how many records was that? Was that 3-4 records before Symptoms then that it took for you to gain that confidence that you have now? I mean, you're a great vocalist, man. I love your style. I love the sound. It's awesome to hear.
Thank you.
You could talk about the punk rock influence. I've heard about the Dead Kennedys and Sex Pistols were early on. And then working with Bill Stevenson, did you have a lot of Milo influences on there? Because I could hear a little bit of that in the Only Crime stuff as well. Or was that just because the way the music was being written, it just kind of flowed easily into a style like that?
I think I was late to the Descendents party. Like I got into that band late, and I was dating a girl that loved the Descendents, and she loved All. And I went with her to see All in like this might have been 1990. Scott Reynolds was singing for All.
Okay.
And I was just starting to get into the Descendents music, because for some reason I'd always kind of dismissed them as a college rock band without ever hearing them, like an idiot. And then I heard Live Edge and I was like, fuck, this is great. This is like
such a good record.
These are killer tunes. They're punk and they're aggressive, but the singing's got this rad melody.
Right.
And I started getting into it. And Bill has always compared me to Milo. I'm not the singer Milo is by any means, but like the fact there's a little bit of an edge. Mm-hmm. Like you're going for melody, but there's a little bit of an edge.
Right.
What he calls barking Milo. Like he says there's different types of Milo, like barking Milo. It's so like I've always kind of had that, and Bill brings that out of me. And so I forgot. I lost track of the question.
I was just talking about your influences and the melodic.
So like
and your barking side. I mean, that makes perfect sense, because you are so in all the music that I've heard you create. It is very melodic when it comes to the vocal melodies and the lines and stuff. But you do have that rasp. That, I mean, for me, all of my favorite singers have that. I don't think there's too many of my favorite singers in any genre that just have a perfectly clean voice. There's always got to be a little distortion.
I mean, there's singers out there like Zoli, who was in Ignite, mm-hmm. like Scott Reynolds, like the guy that sang in Big Drill Car, that like it's clean, perfect. Like they're like legit singers. Like they were born to be singers. And like, I admire that. I could never do it. You know what I mean? Like I'm striving for melody. I'm trying not to just scream and yell.
Right.
I'm striving for melody, but my voice is just not, I'm just not that guy. And so my voice is just inherently has some edge to it. And so it seems to be, I kind of landed on Milo without really trying to.
Right.
Like I kind of became that type of singer.
Yeah, I mean, if you came late to the party, it probably wasn't, as you said, a huge influence. It just kind of happened upon it, but it's a great one to happen upon.
I wanted to sing like Greg Graffin, just like everybody else.
There you go. There's another great one.
Didn't really pan out.
Well, on some more serious notes though, that are not necessarily tied in with music, I know that your bassist Chuck in January was hit by a car, as I understand, leaving his restaurant. Mm-hmm. What can you tell me a little? I mean, I'm just going off of a couple of headlines I saw. Like, how's he doing? I mean, that's a freak accident, obviously, but
yeah, it was gnarly. Like, it was when I got the call, it was really gnarly, and it could have been a lot worse, I guess, is the best way to think about it, because he got hit pretty good, and
he was walking across the street, right, or something, and then the car hit him. I mean, it wasn't like he was in a car too. I mean,
no, he was walking,
fuck,
and
man.
he fucked up his ankle and foot and the other knee, and he was in bad shape for a while. But typical Chuck, like, he's got a great attitude. He's healthy. He's just killed his physical therapy. He's up and around now, bothering people again, and it was really cool. We played with Pennywise down at the Garden Amp.
Oh, you were at that show. Oh, cool.
In March, and he played in his wheelchair.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
He's like, I'm not missing this, and he flew down and he sat in his wheelchair on stage and played. But he's up now. He's playing upright. Like, these shows we're going to be doing coming up, he's not going to be typical Chuck, like bouncing off the walls, but he'll be able to stand and rock it. So he's way ahead of schedule with his recovery.
Dude, that's incredible. I'm glad to hear that, because I mean, I could only imagine as a brother in the band, as someone you've been with for a very long time, getting that call must have been fucking heart wrenching. So
yeah,
I'm glad to hear that all is getting better and on the up and up. But you did mention that this Garden Amp. I just went there for the first time the other night to see my buddy Chris Jericho's band Fozzy. I hadn't been there before, but our singer Matt went out to this Pennywise show. It was H2O was also on it, right?
They did a bunch of shows. So Pennywise did.
They did like 5 or 6 in a row, right? Yeah.
So we played the full circle night. So they did. Okay. They pick an album, and they would have support bands, and they would play that album in its entirety, and then they'd play their other hits.
Right.
And so we were on the full circle night. So we also played with, I think it was Authority Zero and Chaser. I can't remember who else played that night, but it was super fun. Like, so the Garden Amp we played that outside thing with Pennywise, but there's also a little smaller room that I played with Trevor. Me and Trevor from Face to Face did a solo.
You guys went in there like after the show, like?
No, we played there another time in September. Me and Trevor toured in September together, and we did a show in that little room, and that was really fun too. So it's a kind of a cool spot with different places to have shows.
I've lived here my whole life. I didn't know that even existed. I know that just opened up as a venue, I believe, in 2018. But I didn't even hear about it before. I mean, I grew up in Westminster, right next to Garden Grove. I live in Huntington Beach now. This is all Orange County. That was my first concert. Was Friday night there. Yeah. And it's a cool little spot. Is it like I was trying to get the lowdown on it. Is it kind of like a performance school or something of some kind, and then like all around it, or?
I really don't know much about it. I showed up to the first time when me and Trevor played. Yeah. When obviously we weren't in the amphitheater part of it, and then
you're talking about that room that's right behind the amphitheater
with all the lockers.
Yeah, the lockers. Yeah, there was a couple of bands that played there after.
Yeah, we played there, me and Trevor, and it was super fun. And it was just kind of a cool setup. Like the amphitheater part, like for a Pennywise show, it's weird because there's like barely any dance floor.
Right.
But for like older people, like old punkers that want to go out and see a show, it's rad because you can sit in the seats, and it's the way that the amphitheater is like everywhere you sit, you can see everything, and you're close. It's not super massive.
No, it was a
pretty good intimate spot. So you can watch if you don't want to dance, but there's a little bit of a dance floor for people. So yeah, it's a cool spot to do what Pennywise was doing. Those type of shows, I think it was perfect.
Yeah, I heard it went over well. I didn't make it out, and I feel bad now because I know that Fletcher was out there. I know I've had him on the show and become friends with him over the years, and I love that dude. He's a wild man, but I love hanging out with him. Speaking of some other like Orange County venues, Do you guys must have played places like Chain Reaction and Showcase Theater here in Orange County years ago, right?
Yes.
You have any fond memories of those or bad memories of those?
Not really. There was a time when we were just starting to go, like would be early Fat Records days, like mid '90s. I feel like we played the Showcase Theater in Corona like 100 times.
Right.
I feel like we were always there, and so we knew everybody that was there, that worked there, and like the people that came to see us. It was awesome. I have good memories of driving out there, because what we would do, because Chuck is from Long Beach originally, his parents still live there, so we would drive down and we would like stay in Chuck's parents' house, and then we would drive to like Orange County or San Diego or Inland Empire or Hollywood, depending where our shows were. We'd go down for like a weekend and play like 3 shows. And just driving from Long Beach on the 91 out to Corona and back. I feel like we did that so many times. We had great shows. It was a weird venue. Like it wasn't the best stage kind of setup, but
it's kind of like in the corner, it's kind of
it was in a corner, and the drum riser was on this weird round thing.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun there. We headlined there. We played with No Use for a Name there. We did the Fat Records tour there. We played with, we played there so many times. We headlined. We supported other bands, and then Chain Reaction we played I think twice. I just remember my buddy who played in the NHL. He was playing for the Anaheim Ducks, and he came out to the show, and his car got towed, and I felt so bad.
From that parking lot, or
or maybe he parked next door. I don't know. But
you can't. Next door was like a little a penny saver or some shit. Not saver, like a Savers.
But we had great shows at Chain Reaction.
Yeah, I'm fond of those places too. Just growing up and seeing bands there, then playing and getting the chance to play them when I was, in my late teens. And speaking of late teens and playing shows, you guys did quite a few Warped Tours as well, right? How many did you do, real quick?
Good Riddance. Yeah. We really only did one. We did 2000. We did the whole main stage, the whole tour.
Right on.
That was like our biggest participation. We actually also played the very first year of Warped in '95, when it was someone's crazy idea and nobody thought it was going to take off. We did the West Coast. So we played Vancouver down to Irvine. And that was when it was like they were mostly at clubs, and there'd be a ramp out in the parking lot. Oh. So we played that first year.
I never got the pleasure in '95. I was too young to go out to those shows, unfortunately. So, but my older brother turned me on to bands like Lagwagon from those early Warped Tour.
Yeah, so they played those shows. No Use played, No Doubt, Civ, Orange 9mm, Sick of It All was on those.
Fuck yeah.
That was pretty cool, but nobody had any idea what it was going to turn into. Like everyone just saw well, this is a crazy idea. So you got the show and you got this ramp outside. Like, how's that going to work? And it turns out it worked out pretty well for a long time.
Yeah, man. Well, fucking A. Oh, speaking of having ramps and skating, and we talked earlier being in Santa Cruz. Do you still surf? Are you into that anymore?
I just got back out in the water the other day for the first time since before the pandemic. So I'm stoked. I'm looking into getting a new board, and I don't have a day job anymore. So except for the band and hockey, I have more free time. So I'm looking at trying to be back in the water more, because I totally missed it.
Oh man, I not for the pandemic or anything else. I just had a kid 5 years ago and got into golf, and both things have occupied my time. I just got in the water. I bring that up not to take away from you, but just to share. I just got back in the water for the first time in fucking years. Finally caught a wave. I was stoked. I'm gonna get back into it a little bit more often. If you're ever down in Orange County, maybe we should hit a couple waves. I just feel like if we live here, and don't take advantage of that. I mean, it's obviously if you hate the ocean or don't like surfing, that's one thing. But I grew up doing it and I loved it, and just to live here and not do it, I feel like I'm kind of cheating myself. So when did you start surfing? Like how early?
Probably junior high.
Okay, yeah, you definitely started a little. I didn't start surfing. I lived here my whole life.
I was in the junior lifeguards.
Oh, so was I.
Yeah, I was in junior guards. So I was in junior guards in Santa Cruz, and that's what got me on. That's what got me out in the water.
Oh, that's
more.
Awesome.
And I just remember when we were done with our session, we would all grab doils and just go terrorize. And like those big foam surfboards,
Yeah.
and we would go terrorize, and that's how I first started surfing. And then obviously after that, got my first board and all of that.
Dude, that's fucking awesome. I didn't know you did junior guards. Dude, how many summers did you do?
2.
You did 2. I did 1. I did 1 because my parents said if I wanted to go to the beach without their accompaniment, I had to do 1 summer. So I did the minimum.
Yeah, my parents had me do it just to kind of keep me out of trouble. And the first year I did it right, and the second year I kind of fucked around and would, like, as soon as they dropped me off, I would leave with my buddies and go skate. Or I didn't really go every day, but I made friends. I made friends, and like that got me into, like, then I'm surfing, and then I got my board. I'm keeping a board at a buddy's house that lives down there, and like, yeah, that's when I made some friends, that like the little surf crew that we had.
Oh, that's so much fun. Such a good time, man. Like, I met my wife at junior guards here in Huntington.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't get married then. We were 12 years old, but
yeah.
But I did hear a lot of this, your solo record might have been inspired by some of the stuff that happened to you in 2020. I mean, everyone went through shit in 2020, but I heard a little bit of your story, and it made me really feel for you without even really knowing you. I mean, it kind of sounds like you got a whirlwind of shit that happened to you.
Yeah, I tell people, like, 2020, like this whole pandemic, like the pandemic, and then the thing, like George Floyd and all of that stuff, and like everybody went through like a rough time,
right?
But some of us got extra sprinkles on top, and I got extra sprinkles on top. But it's not like, there's still people that had it way worse than me, like I had a roof over my head, and I was still working at the time, and the company I worked for, even though we weren't physically going to work, was still paying us, which was cool. And
what were you doing that?
I worked for Apple for 15 years.
Oh, right on. What department?
I had a retail store, Genius Bar.
Oh, okay, cool.
Genius Bar. But yeah, they still paid us, and so, like, I'm fortunate for that. But yeah, it was a rough year for sure. I was engaged, and that ended during the pandemic, and she moved away, and both parents passed away, and I had to get evacuated because of the fire. There's fires up here that summer.
Yeah.
And then just crazy stuff. And, but everybody had a rough go. Like, everybody had a rough go. So.
Right. Yeah. But I just, when I heard you talking about it before, I was like, oh man, that's some rough shit to go through, man. Was that, sorry if you don't want to talk about it, you just let me know.
No, it's okay.
But was that your first time going in potential marriage? Have you been married before?
That was my second time being engaged.
Okay.
No marriages.
No marriages. Okay. No. So you don't have any kids then, or no kids? Okay. And then your parents passing, I know that's got to be rough. I can't empathize with that yet. I could sympathize though. It's got to be a shitty timing too, right?
Yeah. Well, it was rough, but like, it's one of those things that, like, it's going to happen at some point.
Right.
And you can kind of prepare for it, but it still sucks. And it's mostly just the sense of being on your own. Like I sometimes still, like, I want to run something by my mom, or my dad.
Right.
Just a life thing, like, but I'm fortunate that I have people around me who are supportive. I have people around me who have gone through similar things that were able to kind of share with me how they got through it. And so, I mean, both my parents passed away, in their 80s. So they had a good run, like I'm grateful. And both got ill really quickly, and it didn't linger. So they didn't have to suffer for a long time. So, like, those kinds of things I'm grateful for.
Silver linings. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they both had really full lives, and they both didn't have to suffer for very long.
Were you able to see them? Because I know, like, my wife's grandfather passed during the 2020 pandemic, and we weren't able to see him very much because he was in a home. Were you able to see?
Yeah. So my dad lived my parents had been divorced for a long, long time. My dad lived up further up in the Bay Area, and he passed in 2019 in December, so a couple of months before the pandemic. And I had a chance to visit with him probably a week or so before he passed away, and he was lucid and in good spirits, and we had a really good talk, and I was stoked about that. And then my mom, same deal. Like she was at home with hospice, and she wasn't doing too great, and I kind of knew it was going to be soon. And I was able to go up there and spend like 2-3 hours with her and just have a really, really good talk. And like, I feel good about that too. Like when there's nothing that's left unsaid, there's nothing they're like, oh man, I wish I would have told them that, or I wish I would have apologized for that. Or like when everything's been said and you're able to just kind of hold them, and you know, I knew it was going to be the last time I was going to see my mom probably. But I was able to just kind of be there with her and talk to her, and it was, you know, it was sad, but it was a good conversation to have. And it was, I'm grateful that I got to deal with both of my parents, where it's like, you don't get the call and you're like, oh man, I was going to go see them, or I needed to tell them this, or just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, I could empathize a little bit with that one just from other people, but not with the parents per se. I'm glad that you were able to say goodbye properly, because I know that could be
me too. Really tough. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Man, it could be really tough to cope with shit if you don't have that closure, I would imagine. So, onto some happier things that happened recently for you. I heard you purchased your first house. You're a homeowner now.
Man, you know everything about me.
Is it creepy? Is it creepy?
It's creeping me out a little.
I try to do my research, man.
Yeah, first time. Hopefully last time.
Yeah, you're just staying in the Santa Cruz area, just enjoy it. I love that. I'm the same way, man. As you know, we've both traveled all over the fucking place. There's a lot of other places we could have rested our head, but where we were born, where we were raised, just feels like home, right?
Yeah, I was, when I was chasing the dream of being an NHL scout for a while, I was like, I really wanted to do. I was aggressively sending resumes out and stuff like that. I was willing to move anywhere for that job.
Yeah.
But after a while, I sort of just came to realize that I'm probably a lifer up here. Like I love Santa Cruz. I love how close I am to like San Francisco and San Jose, and even not that far from Southern California.
Right.
Because I'm down there a lot for hockey anyway. And just being close to the ocean and just the vibe here. And I'm grateful that I was able to do this, because it's, as you know, it's fucking not cheap to live in California, especially to live in like coastal kind of California. So the fact that I was able to do this, I'm super grateful for.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, man. Being able to, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you get to do two of the things that you've wanted to do for a long time in recruiting, and still doing your passion in music and writing and singing and touring. As we said, you're about to hit the road again, and man, I'm really happy for you. Yeah,
I mean, it worked out okay for a guy that dropped out of high school. Like it worked.
When did you drop out of high school?
Junior year.
You got
Santa
me by
Cruz
one.
High.
I dropped out in my senior year to join the band. So we have junior guards in common. We have a little bit of surfing. You know. Yeah. I'm sorry I creeped you out with all the knowledge that I brought.
No,
today.
That's fine. It's impressive. Impressive.
Well, I think I took up enough of your time today, Russ. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'd love to keep in touch, man. Maybe sometime you're down in Orange County again, come check out a show or hit some waves or have some fun some way.
Awesome, man. Sounds good.
All right, man. Have a good day. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Well, that was my conversation with Russ Rankin of Good Riddance. You can go check their shows out right now. I'm sure if you go to goodriddance.com or follow them on all their social media, you can find where they are and where they're coming to a town near you. And as always, till next time, cheers.